Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We're taking a deep dive into those IEP strategies, the ones you were so curious about. The ones all about sparking creativity. It's awesome to see your passion for this kind of stuff. Finding those creative ways to help students really make strides.
And this document seems to be jam-packed with them, wouldn't you say? It's incredible. We're talking sensory regulation, communication, and even those less obvious connections like how IEPs can work with STEM and the arts.
It really is like a treasure chest waiting to be opened,
Yeah.
and they don't waste any time. Right off the bat, they hit on sensory regulation, which I feel like sometimes gets, I don't know, maybe a little overshadowed.
It's so easy to forget just how crucial sensory input is, or even the lack of it for that matter. Think about it. If you've got a student who is just overwhelmed by all the sounds of a busy classroom, how in the world are they supposed to, focus on a lesson about fractions?
Such a good point. And it's easy to jump to, oh, this student is being disruptive, but what if they just need some noise canceling headphones or a weighted lap pad, to help them self-regulate?
Exactly, and that's exactly the kind of practical strategies they're highlighting in this document. One that really stuck out to me was calm down bottles. Remember those?
Oh, absolutely. Used to make those with my students all the time.
Right. And they might seem super basic, but there's actually real science behind it. So that visual movement from the glitter and just the feeling of holding it, tipping the bottle, it gives them that calming sensory input to help a child, kind of come back down to a calmer state where they're actually ready to learn.
It really is amazing how something so simple can make a world of difference.
It really is. And they also talk about setting up a sensory wall, which I think is super cool because it's so customizable.
Yeah.
Imagine a designated spot in the classroom that has different textures, maybe even some things that spin or some soft lighting.
It's like a mini break for their senses to kind of reset.
Yeah.
That could be beneficial for so many students, especially, those with sensory processing differences.
Exactly. And it's not just about meeting those individual needs. By being proactive about these sensory strategies, you're creating a learning environment that's inclusive and supportive for every student in the classroom.
It makes you think, when we're talking about all of these sensory needs, how does that actually play into communication?
Oh, that's a great segue. Because communication, it goes way beyond just spoken words.
It's true, though, right? We're so quick to think of communication as just, speaking. But this document, it kind of flicks that script, yeah.
Totally. It really underscores the importance of meeting students where they're at, especially those who are nonverbal or if they've got those language-based differences in learning. You got to honor how they communicate.
And there's some really creative ways to do that, too. That section on picture exchange communication, PEXS, really caught my eye. Sometimes those visual aids and symbols can be so much more powerful when a student's trying to express themselves.
You hit the nail on the head with PEXS. It's not just about giving a kid a way to communicate. It's about giving them the reins, empowering them to start those interactions, to say, hey, this is what I need. Imagine how freeing that is to be able to communicate that, how you feel, what you need, without relying solely on spoken words.
Absolutely. And it's not just for those basic needs either. They were even talking about using conversation cue cards to help navigate social situations.
Oh, for sure. Visual prompts like that can be a game changer, especially for students who might not pick up on those unspoken social rules. It's like giving them the cheat codes to communication and social interaction so they feel more confident, more comfortable joining in.
That reminds me, I had this student a few years back, super bright kid, but social situations, they were tough for him. He'd clam up or blurt things out that, seemed totally off topic. We started using social stories and these visual cues, kind of like those conversation cue cards you mentioned. And it was remarkable, the change. He was more at ease interacting with the other kids. He even started joining those group activities he used to avoid, like the plague.
That's what it's all about, seeing those strategies click and make a real difference. And it ties into that bigger picture of social emotional learning, which this document, it dives into that too, especially the collaborative side of things.
Yeah. That whole section on using collaborative activities for SEL, it was spot on. Using art, movement, even group projects to teach those social and emotional skills. So much more engaging than just lecturing at them.
It's recognizing that connection, that learning happens in those relationships too. This document, it highlights that with stuff like those collaborative mural projects or emotion-themed group collages. It's not just arts and crafts, it's about giving them an outlet, a safe space to work together, express themselves and start building empathy and understanding for each other.
Way more fun than a worksheet on how are you feeling today? I love that part on restorative circles. Gotta admit, not my area of expertise.
They can be really powerful there for building that sense of community and working through conflicts in the classroom, bringing them together, having them talk it out, but in a circle so it feels equal and safe. They share their piece, and then the focus shifts to finding solutions together.
So less about pointing fingers and more about, okay, how do we fix this?
Exactly. You go from blame to accountability, and that changes the whole feeling in the classroom. And that takes us back to the heart of this document, right? Meeting those kids where they are, giving them learning experiences that are engaging, relevant, and, tailored to them. And speaking of thinking outside the box, how about that part where they connect IEPs with STEM, art, even movement?
I gotta say, when I saw emotion sensing robots, I was like, hold on, what? But then I kept reading, and honestly, I'm kind of hooked on the idea now.
It's definitely one of those wait, really moments in the document, but it just shows you how powerful it can be to tap into what a student actually enjoys and then use that to make learning stick, make it fun. Like imagine a kid who loves to build, and now they get to design a robot that changes colors based on emotions. You're hitting those STEM skills and those social emotional goals all in one.
I wonder if they'd even realize they're working on, like, identifying and understanding emotions because they're so caught up in the building and the tech side of it.
Right, you're sneaking in those important lessons, but through activities they're actually drawn to. And it's not all about fancy gadgets either. They also talk about the power of art, which I love. That section on emotional geometry projects really got me thinking.
Oh, that sounds intriguing. What is that exactly?
So picture this. You use geometric shapes, those building blocks, to actually represent different emotions. Students could create a sculpture that shows calmness, maybe using smooth lines, symmetrical shapes, or one that's all about anger, with jagged edges and bold colors. It's like a hands-on visual way to explore those feelings.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
giving those abstract ideas a real concrete form. And it makes you think, even just choosing certain colors for an art project, that ties into emotional awareness, expressing yourself. This document is full of those little light bulb moments.
And the best part is, you can tweak these approaches to fit different learners. They even talk about using dance and movement to reach IEP goals.
Now that is some outside-the-box thinking. I get how movement could be huge for self-regulation, but how does that translate to, like, core subjects?
Because learning doesn't have to be stuck at a desk, Think about a student who just can't seem to memorize those multiplication facts. Instead of flashcards, what if they learn them through dance? Every move is a different equation.
Talk about making multiplication memorable.
Exactly. It's finding those different ways in because not everyone learns the same way, right?
We've covered so much ground today. Sensory stuff, those communication tools, collaborative learning, and now this whole world of connecting IEPs to STEM, art, movement, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface of what this document has to offer.
We've only just opened the treasure chest, that's for sure. But I think the biggest takeaway for anyone listening is that creating a truly effective IEP, it goes beyond checking those boxes. It's about really seeing that individual student, what makes them tick, what they need, and then you use that to build a learning experience that is truly theirs, something that helps them shine.
So well said. It's like the document's a roadmap, but each student's journey, that's going to look different. And that's more than okay.
Yes.
This deep dive has been amazing. Not just a notebook full of new ideas, but just it's reignited that spark, you know, that we as educators, we have that power to make a real difference in these students' lives.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's what it's all about.